pretty much the most important question of this whole video. Why do people think they're entitled to know exactly how much you make? Well guys, we've actually finished a little bit early today, so we thought we might do a little bit of a Q&A for you guys. I'm gonna go chuck this last DVD lot over on the photo station, and then we're gonna answer some questions from the old Instagram. There's Jazz doing some photos for us.
Last photo.
And while Jazzy finishes those off, I'm actually gonna show you guys a little bit of what's actually been happening in the warehouse, give you guys a little bit of an update on where we're at, because we've actually hired somebody now, and give you a little bit of insight into where we're at with the Macpac and also the DVD stores, because I know we haven't really touched on that for the last couple of weeks. So DVD store, as you can see behind me, is starting to fill up. I think we're up to a box 107 now, and we're just about to hit that 6-month mark on that store. So I'll give you guys a quick little update in terms of our solds and also our current 90-day. So we have 513 listed, 353 sold for the last 90 days. And we have a 90-day total of 13,857. So that store is cruising along quite well, and it is ticking over. And as I said, we are now at that 6-month mark, so we can actually start moving all those orange that are left of those top shelves, because they've had 6 months of eBay traction to hopefully sell. And the ones that are left over, we're going to either move through an auction or in some wholesale lots. And in terms of the Macpac stuff, we are almost done listing all that stuff. So I think there's about 6 or 7 boxes still up the front that we need to do from, I think there's about over 100 boxes there. So getting very close to the end of that, and you can see behind me, this rack is absolutely chockers. And on the other side is also chockers full of that Macpac stuff. And it is selling through pretty well. So I'll give you an update of where that's at as well. So with the camping gear, I've actually been tracking that all on my spreadsheet, because there are some loans that we need to repay back to ourselves in that category. But we've actually sold $26,428.67 as of last Saturday, and we are starting to really see that start to pick up. And I think as we get closer to Q4, that'll continue to tick over. So realistically, that leaves us in a position of about $12,000 still to make up on that deal, once you take out all the fees and shipping and all that. Are you ready for some questions, Jazz?
I'm ready. All right, question number 1. When you ship international, do you put the actual sale price on the customs form or less?
Quick answer, yes, because if you don't, that can be classified as fraud. We do have some people ask us here and there to do that, but they need to be paying their import duties and all those sorts of things on top of whatever their sale price is. So the correct answer for that is yes. I know some people don't, but that's just what we do.
We don't mess around.
Question 2, if you could only sell one category, what would it be? That's quite a tough question, I think. Do you have any ideas? Maybe we should go have a look and see what we've actually got in store and stuff that we actually enjoy selling, because we have quite a vast variety of stuff and it'd be really hard for us to choose just one thing. And I think at our scale, it would also be very difficult for us to continue scaling if we were only doing one product.
How do you get all that stock?
I don't know. Do you have an answer though?
My short answer is I wouldn't only sell one thing, but if I had to only sell one thing, I mean, books is our biggest category this year, so maybe I'd have to go with that, but I wouldn't.
And I think the advantage of us selling books is that we're very picky with what we're actually selling in the book category. So we're trying to aim for items that are sort of above $50. That way we can make enough margin. They're taking up the space on the shelf, so we need them to be making good money. So I probably wouldn't go full bookseller, because I don't want to be selling those 20, even up to 30 and less books, because they do take up a lot of room and they can be quite heavy as well. So I don't think there is a category that I would just pick off the top of my head and say, bam, that's what I want to do. Books is probably a good one. DVDs has done quite well for us, and clothing are probably the top 3. Question 3, what are some things that you don't pick up in the thrift store anymore, and why? I think for us, the big one right now is VHS. You can see right behind us, we have a little bit of VHS left in the store, but we have ditched a whole lot of that, just because that market has really slowed down. It was always pretty quiet. There were some specific ones out there that are worth great money, and there still are, but it's not a category that we pick up very often now. Do you have any other categories you want to add to that?
Plush. And I know there's some really good plush out there, but we just have these big tubs that are full of them, and they're just slow moving and taking up a chunk of floor space, and we kind of need that floor space.
Yeah, there's so many categories that people do really well in, and it's just a personal choice. So I know Christian from Forest Fine absolutely kills it in plush. If you want to learn the plush market, go over and check him out, because there are some out there that make really good money. Just for what we want to do, doesn't really suit our model. All right, we've got a cheeky little question here from Uncle Wayno. We wouldn't expect anything less. He says, are you going to upgrade the Getz and get a real car?
Okay, first of all, watch your mouth, because the Getz is a workhorse. We once got 500 kilos of jeans in that baby. But also, my other car is a Mercedes, so...
just saying. I do think that the Getz has been great for us. But yeah, the Mercedes, obviously we get out and get around in that here and there. That's the Sprinter that we're converting, and we will talk about that in a little bit, because there are some questions about the van and where we're at with that process. But I have heard, Wayno, that your car broke down for the last 3 months. So stop throwing stones. And the next question is, can you explain bundles to us? So there isn't really an explanation for it. The only thing is that people are buying multiple of the same item, and we're able to give them a discount on either the postage if they're overseas. Obviously, a lot of our stuff is free postage, so we don't have to worry about that when we're doing it. We just need to worry about the pricing that they're buying it for. But we do also bundle up like items sometimes here and there. If the one item isn't really worth selling on its own, but if you can add 4 or 5 of them together, then potentially they might be worth a little bit of money. I can actually show you on the DVD store, because I've been doing that. So with bundling, this is something I've actually been testing out on the DVD store. I got a whole bunch of Blu-rays, and there is some very sort of famous actors in here. So this one is Matthew McConaughey. So I've just chucked a bundle of like 5 or 6 together there. Now, I'm just testing this out. I'm not saying this is going to work, but it's just an interesting way of trying to move some stock that potentially wouldn't move on its own. We have done this with CDs with some success in the past when it's a similar type artist or similar type music. So it'll be interesting to see if that works with Blu-rays as well.
And on the other hand, when it comes to customers making like a multi-quantity bundle purchase, we've been selling stacks of magazines recently and stacks of CDs. They're just repeat customers who are buying lots of the same thing because we have lots of the same thing in stock.
The next question is, how many hours do you work a day? And it very much changes depending on the day. So Mondays are probably busier days for us. We've actually scheduled our week so that Saturdays and Sundays we're not working in the warehouse on eBay. Obviously we're answering questions and sending out offers and all that sort of stuff. But I'd say it probably varies between what, like 30 and 38 hours a week?
Yeah, just like regular full-time job, but some of it's here, some of it's at home, and some of it's in the op shop.
And days like today where it's only like 1:30, we have plenty of time to film stuff like this, work on our inventory systems and all those little things that bank up and become a problem in your business. We sort of slot in when we have quieter days in the warehouse, whether that's because we've smashed through listing or we haven't had as much shipping for the day. But that also kind of leads into us employing somebody and creating some more time for ourselves. So touched on just then that we have started actually employing somebody, and as of 2 weeks ago, we now have a staff member who is coming in to do about 6 to 10 hours a week just to help us through some shipping and getting some drafts done as some changes happen in our business. And you guys might have seen this staff member in a few of our previous videos. What are you doing?
Delicious.
Doing some shoes over here.
Yeah, got plenty.
Amber is actually coming in to help us out, and so far she is absolutely smashing it. So hopefully that continues to build our business across this financial year.
She's the employee of every single month.
Next question is, what profit percentage do you guys look for on your items?
100.
We actually try to aim for, if we're buying for $10, to be selling sort of 50 and upwards, which allows us enough room on all of our stock and all of our purchases to average about a 30% profit margin after all of our expenses. So I think last financial year it was like 29.97%, and currently I think it's about 31% we're sitting on, and we're sort of aiming for about 32 this year. So what that allows us to do is obviously pay all our overheads, pay now our staff and ourselves a decent wage, and pay for everything that comes in the store, including the cost of goods on the rack, shipping, fees, all those little things that come into this business.
Everything. Snacks.
So if we're buying for 10, we're looking for 50 and up. If we're paying 20, then obviously upwards of around that $100 mark. But everything sort of equals out, because some stuff we get super cheap through some of our options, like the DVD palette. We're essentially getting those for about 10 cents each.
Also, sell-through does come into it. If it's going to sell the next day guaranteed, maybe it's okay if that's a little bit smaller.
Yeah, it is all sort of a development process as you go, and you will learn those sort of things. And we're actually trying to get rid of some of our stock at the moment, like the CDs that we have in store that we have been selling bulk of. We've done some pretty massive reductions on those because our buy-in price was low enough that it's allowing us to do that. Here's a very interesting question, and I'm actually going to read it word for word because it is pretty much the most important question of this whole video. Why do people think they're entitled to know exactly how much you make? Is it because of YouTube?
I think we should go sit down for this one.
Very, very interesting question. And I think YouTube does come into it a little bit because we're essentially showing people how they can make themselves some money. And as much as I don't like some of those comments sometimes that are like really negative about, oh, but you're only making X amount of money, I think it is an important part of the journey to share that. I think where it becomes too much and too invasive is when we get questions that relate to our personal finances, such as me selling my investment property last year. On the last video that we did with that full breakdown, someone was asking, oh yeah, but you haven't included your CGT for your property. However, I also hadn't included the profit that I made from selling that property in those overall figures. So those CGT numbers were completely irrelevant to those figures. So as much as I think it's really important that we share as much as we can of our journey, there's certain parts of our personal life that don't even relate to this business that I don't think people have the right to know about. And I think there's a few people in the community that share quite well what their numbers are looking like. Chris Furlong is another one that does it really well. And we've tried to be really open and honest about where we are in our journey. But sometimes it's really hard to just go, hey, this is where we are right now. Obviously, our spreadsheet has provided us a lot of clarity in our business.
Yeah.
And being a brand new business as well, it's kind of in its infancy. So last year doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to flow over to this year.
Yeah, I think there's a few different factors at play here. One thing is that part of this channel is to show that this is not like your regular 9 to 5, and there's different things we can do to make different amounts of money, and we never want to overinflate that and make it seem like a get rich quick thing or like we don't spend time working. So there is an element of responsibility to be transparent about how much we make, but some people just take it absolutely too far where it's not relevant anymore. And I think they just would kind of like to pick it apart, and people want to see people fail sometimes.
Yeah, and I think on YouTube there's kind of two pools of YouTubers when it comes to reselling. There's kind of those people that want to be YouTubers and will go out and create content for YouTube. And then there's people like us who resell and then share their journey on YouTube. Obviously, we're trying to cremate. Not trying to cremate anyone. We are trying to create entertaining and good quality content, but we're not going to go out of our way to make a video just for the sake of YouTube.
Right. We definitely want to always keep it real and show the reality of what we're doing. But there's a line.
So thanks for asking that. I think it is a very relevant question to what we do. All right, that's enough of the serious stuff. We have a couple questions relating to our van and where we're at with that, because it has been a very long journey for us, a very slow journey, and it's still a long way to go. So we still are working through that project of ours. Obviously, we only really have the weekends to do that. And living in Adelaide, there's quite a lot of rain.
I think we imagined that we would be like working on it every single week, but the reality is just life and weather and all sorts of things have gotten in the way, so that we're actually working on the van maybe like every 3 weeks and doing bits in between. So at the moment, we've spent the last few weeks sanding and oiling our beautiful timber for our ceiling, and half of that is already up. So it's little stages, but we're really excited to be getting into some of the aesthetic parts of the build.
I'll probably drop some footage in there because we are filming that for the other channel, Brad and Jazz. There has been like pretty much no content on that channel for like 3 months, but we are working towards it. Long term, it is going to be hard for us to replace ourselves in this business and find people that we can rely on long term to sort of let us go on the road. So we're not really sure what's going to happen in the next couple of years. We've got a lease on this warehouse for at least another 2. So we had 3 + 3 at the start. So we've got another 2 to go, and then plus potentially 3 more. So we'll sort of lead up to that and start hiring a few more people and seeing if they're fitting into the business well, to see if it's something that we're going to be able to do is continue running this business like it is, or if we're going to have to change things and scale down and get someone to operate out of it, like maybe a storage unit or something like that for us. It's kind of an unknown at this point in time, but we're still definitely working towards getting on the road at some point and checking out this great country we live in.
I'm excited even to just do like weekend trips when it's fitted out.
Yeah, that'll be the good test to start out, I think, is a couple weekend trips here and there. And another cool question right here. Have you two ever thought about opening up a op shop with a coffee shop attached to it?
That's cute.
That would be...
We think that we would be amazing op shop managers.
That would be very cool. I don't think we'll ever do that though, because when you get to that level, that's really tying you down in one place. And obviously with our goals going forward, we don't want to be tied down as much as something like that. We have brick and mortar and forward-facing customers.
Face-to-face customer service interactions. I've done it before. I'm not really looking to do it again.
We both worked in retail when we were a lot younger, and I think that's scarred us for life. So we much prefer the interaction over eBay, even though sometimes it does make it more difficult. I think long-term, something like this at whatever scale, with us traveling around in the van, and here's some long-term goals, potentially a little bit of an Airbnb, but we'll get there eventually, is probably the long-term goals. Okay, a couple more questions to go. Another day of photos almost done. Jazz is just behind the lights there, so if she has anything to say, she can jump on in. Next question is International Post. Do you ship worldwide or do you exclude certain countries? So we have International Post set up for regions. So we do like the UK, the US, Europe, New Zealand. There are a few countries that we have excluded from that set because we've had some bad experiences in the past, and we also changed some stuff when COVID hit because there were certain countries we couldn't send to, and we haven't really changed it back since. Anything to add?
I shipped something to Cyprus yesterday.
There you go. Next up from Denny is, how do you guys determine how long your work week will be? Do you enforce strict no work time zones? Tough question. So we don't really specify how many hours we're going to work, but we do work Monday to Friday, and we try to cram all of our stuff into those 5 days. So we're listing about 400 items a week at the moment between the 3 stores, and we try and jam that into those 5 days. And then on the weekends we will do a bit of ending and relisting, some ending and sell similar, some older items, some adjusting. We're actually also running some auctions at the moment to clear some stock. So not so much specified hours, and we do work outside of hours, obviously answering questions and offers, but I wouldn't say the specified hours, but we do try to keep it Monday to Friday. Anything to add?
You know what? If we've been out on a Friday and we found some cool stuff and I just get like a tingle on the weekend and I want to do some drafts, why not? If you feel like working, go for it, because then you're going to feel good about working and you don't have to do as much when you don't want to.
Absolutely. Next question, do you think there is more room for more clothing resellers? Absolutely. I think if you can find good quality stock and you can beat the market, there's always going to be room for more clothing resellers. It's obviously a big market. People are trying to save money at the moment with the cost of living crisis. So I think clothing resellers will always be around. I think it's just a matter of how cheap you can buy your stock for. How do you guys get so good? You sell everything. Firstly, thank you, but I don't think we are that good. I think we've just learned a lot of things over time. We're still improving every single day to try and get our sell-through rate up on our main store, and you can see by our DVD store how we're actually implementing those structures to get stuff out the door quicker. So I think over time you just learn lessons and you get better at buying and better at selling. So I don't think we're necessarily good. I just think we've learned a lot of things and we're implementing those things as we go. Do you have anything to add?
I feel obliged to tell you that there are things we know nothing about, like jewelry, antiques.
Lots of categories that we have no idea about, but plenty that we are and have learned. Grumpy Granny is asking a couple questions. Do either of you play a musical instrument, and have you ever considered making a music video? No and no. I am completely useless at anything music related. Cannot do anything that has any sort of artistic rhythm. So that's a no from me.
I reckon I could probably play hot cross buns on a recorder.
That'll come in handy. That'll come in handy. And last up, do you use plain bubble mailers with the AusPost flat rate postage? So we actually did a video about this just recently, explaining what we do. Ideally, you're not supposed to use unbranded mailers and use small or medium satchels, but essentially it's going to be the same price as if you measured it. So we have started doing that in a few cases. Don't tell AusPost.
We got to finish up, but we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for your questions.